Hey folks, welcome back. Earlier this year, I grew a lot of sweet potatoes, mid-June to mid-September. So about 90 days, and I pulled them out of the ground, put them in the barn. Got about 700 pounds across 600 square feet. I don't know if that's a great yield or not. I haven't looked it up because I really don't care. It was good enough for what I wanted to do. I didn't go into the season calculating out what I was looking to grow. It just kind of happened organically based upon the number of slips I grew. Every slip that I grew went into the ground. So I pulled all these out of the ground, and I knew it was about 700 pounds because I was counting the number of 5-gallon buckets I would fill up. And yeah, it worked out to be about that. I didn't really think about it until about a month later as I'm bringing them up to the house. And I said to myself, how much calorie is 700 pounds of sweet potatoes? I never really thought about how am I going to get through these 700 pounds over the coming year. I wanted to know what that looked like. So using the USDA database out of Cronometer, which is an online nutrition software, I figured out that I grew, if I eat 2,000 calories a day, now I don't count calories, but I have run my numbers through Cronometer before just to make sure I have like all my nutritional bases met, at least at an entry level. And I eat probably just north of 2,000, but if I eat 2,000, 700 pounds of sweet potatoes is about 33% of my calories. I thought that was kind of cool. And the reason I find that interesting was because I've always associated growing calories with things like whole grains and legumes, not with fruits and vegetables necessarily, because they're usually lower on the calorie side, high on the vitamins and mineral side, very high in fiber, really good for you, but not necessarily calorically dense. So to actually pull out of my garden a lot of calories kind of caught me by surprise. So then I asked myself, if I did decide to eat a lot of sweet potatoes over the 12 months following their curing process, could I build a healthy diet around sweet potatoes? Kind of knew the answer was probably yes already, because I do self-study nutrition pretty extensively, focusing on the dietary guidelines out of industrialized nations. I pay attention to nutrition professors like Christopher Gardner at Stanford and Walter Willett out of Harvard, really smart guys. So I'm not completely unaware of what decent nutrition looks like. So I went about an exercise using Cronometer to see if I could build out a dietary pattern, at least for a day, where sweet potatoes are the base of 3 meals. In the actual, so taking the 700 pounds, figuring out how many calories of food that is, dividing that by 365 and saying, okay, that's a day's worth of sweet potatoes across 3 meals. And I wanted to build out by food type what a day would look like to meet reasonable nutritional goals. Now, before we get into that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. 1, I am not a doctor. I am not a dietitian. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a researcher. I am a random guy on YouTube who's growing a lot of food out of a garden because it's what I want to do and how I want to spend my time. And this is for entertainment purposes only, so please do not take this as advice. 2nd, I'm vegan. Whole food vegan for the most part, so what you're going to find when I'm adding foods into a dietary pattern like this is I'm going to be incrementally adding foods that are only plants. The categories of food that I personally lean into are whole grains, legumes, fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts. So as I'm adding food, if you're not seeing things like dairy, meat, and eggs, that's the reason why. And 3rd, this is not a recommendation of how you should build your diet. And furthermore, these aren't really recipes I'm going to be crafting. What we're going to do is over a handful of screens, we're going to incrementally add food types to build out what could be a representative day of food that's relatively diverse, that covers all of our nutritional bases. And this is an exercise for entertainment purposes only. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into Cronometer. And this is Cronometer, folks, or Cronometer, however you prefer to pronounce it. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the diary. Now, I already kind of preset everything up, but we're going to walk through. So, again, I'm vegan, so what you're going to find is that every food that I add to show how I'm going to build out a kind of a sample dietary pattern based around sweet potatoes, it's all going to be plants. And we're going to show on a roughly 2,000 calorie diet what it would take to sort of build a full complement of nutrients based upon your food. Now, right off the bat, I know that as a vegan, I need to supplement B12, and during the wintertime, I also supplement D3. So on the last day that we show the build out of this, we'll show those supplements getting added in there. Now, if we go to the diary, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start back on the 21st, and we're going to roll through the 24th, and we're going to incrementally add food as we go to show sort of the build up when the base of the day is sweet potatoes, and then we get to the end where everything's added in there. And again, this is just sample. Obviously, swaps can and should take place. This is more of me answering the question, can you build a full day capturing all of your nutrients with diverse food, even though you're restricting your strongest carbohydrate source to sweet potatoes? And you're going to see by the end, the answer is, I think, yes. So on day one, we've got 3 meals set up, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and roughly 250 grams of sweet potato in each one baked. And that's covering 223 calories of each meal, which gives you 670 on 2,000 calories. And now if we go into the nutrition, note that that's a third of our calories right there in sweet potatoes. And on that third, we've already met 48% of our targets. So what do these targets look like? Well, if we look at a very high level, we've got 33% of our total calories. Our protein target is 15% on a 2,000 calorie day, and that's 75 grams. We're 15 grams there already. Net carbs, we're 43% there. And that makes sense because sweet potatoes are a very carbohydrate and fiber and mineral and vitamin-rich source, but they're not one of the more protein-dense sources, and they're very low in fat. So these numbers make sense. As we move on down, what you see here in Cronometer, you're going to have different subcategories for every nutrient. The highlighted ones are up top, but you get more granular as you go down. So we've got general with the total calories and water, but now we're going to look at some more of the fun stuff. On just the sweet potatoes, we scored almost 25 grams of fiber at 24.6. And in our vitamins, we've got representation from pretty much every category. We've already filled out some categories like B5, B6, A, and C. Yeah, sweet potatoes are a source of vitamin C as well. Obviously, B12 and D are missing at this point. B12 is bacterially driven, not commonly found in plant foods, and D is the sunshine vitamin. As we move down, our minerals, again, are getting well represented except for selenium. Calcium, we're actually basically halfway towards the European requirement, which I think is somewhere between 500 and 600 milligrams. The USDA is 1,000. If we go into our protein, you can see that we've got 15 grams there already, and all of the essential amino acids are getting represented. So you'll hear kind of conflicting information when it comes to protein and how complete plant protein is. Plants are not missing any of the essential amino acids. That's a bit of a misconception. The difference between plant protein and animal protein, if you listen to Professor Christopher Gardner, for example, out of Stanford, he has a lot of great YouTube presentations on protein. The distribution of your amino acids is a bit different between plant and animal, but in both cases, all of the amino acids are being represented. Now, this is day one. This is the start of it. We're going to build this out using the next day. And in the next day, I take my sweet potatoes and I add to each of these 3 meals a legume. In my breakfast, I'm throwing half a cup of soybeans. I'm having 3/4 of a cup of chickpeas with my lunch and 3/4 of a cup of lentils with my dinner. And what does adding legumes to sweet potatoes mean? Well, I'm trying to add food sources that are a bit more rich in protein, rich in fiber, and rich in vitamins and minerals as well. Kind of balances out, and legumes are a great food for longevity, apparently, so I don't think it's anything bad to add. And sometimes, personally, I'll skip, like right now my lunch is actually even larger servings of sweet potatoes and no legumes, only because I have so many sweet potatoes on hand. And it doesn't change the nutrition significantly for the day, but it's always better to have a little bit more diversity than less in this case. And this coming from a guy who just says he's eating sweet potatoes 3 times a day in this example, but you understand what I mean. So these legumes that I add in there, what does it do for our calories? We are now over halfway to our caloric goal of 2,000. We're at 1,200 right now. We are at 55 grams of protein against the 75 required, or target. Still relatively low fat right now. However, we did boost it up a bit because the soybeans are a relatively fatty legume. And if we get down into the more granular stuff, you can see we're just about closing out all of our vitamins. Again, we're going to supplement B12 and D. We still need to hit E and K, and those are going to be easily hit later on. The fat source is still relatively low. Fiber, we're already closing in on 50 grams. The minerals, we're doing very well there. Selenium can be a little tricky, but we've got a secret weapon for that one. And calcium, we're getting ever closer to at least the European requirement. And protein, our essential amino acids, we've already met all of them for the day on just sweet potatoes and 3 different types of legumes, in each of them being less than a cup in size and serving. So I think we're doing pretty darn well so far. And just to show that, so we have 2 cups of legumes in total right now. Cup and a half between the chickpeas and the lentils, and a half a cup of the soybeans. So I think we're doing pretty well in filling everything out. And on the next day, we're going to go ahead and add our primary sources of dietary fat in the form of flaxseed for breakfast, a little bit of avocado for lunch, and some walnuts for dinner. And then a snack, we're going to have a Brazil nut, because that's going to be our selenium hit. And where does this take us? Because now we've kind of closed out on more of the basically what I call 3 of the 5 categories for how I eat when I think about my plant-based diet. I swap potatoes and sweet potatoes in as whole grains. So you got whole grains, legumes, fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts. Because calorically, sweet potatoes and potatoes kind of line up to whole grains, I consider those things to be interchangeable. But we've hit all of our calorie heavy hitters at this point. We've got some representation from all those categories. So we haven't added in our fruits and vegetables yet. But where does this leave us? We're 77% of our calories for the day. We are closing in closer and closer to the protein. This is the fat source that we just added in, were the seeds and nuts. We're 84% of our entire target. And getting granular again, 57 grams of fiber on the day. We have closed out all of our vitamins and minerals with the exception of, again, B12 and D, supplement E and K. We're going to get those through through vegetables and fruits. Mostly vegetables. Minerals, doing fine on calcium. We're not there yet on that one. That's going to be closed out by vegetables as well. Zinc as well. Sodium, salt your food, throw some soy sauce on there, you're going to be fine. Protein, again, we're ticking ever closer to our 75-gram goal. Fat, this is where we just added all of our dietary fat for the most part in the day through seeds, nuts, and avocados. And yeah, we got good representation of omega-3s and omega-6s. It's a low saturated fat diet when you're eating plants, especially if you're not leaning into palm and coconut, which are shown to increase your LDL. So I try to avoid leaning into foods like that personally. That's just my preference. Don't take this as dietary advice. This is just a suggestion or what I do. And next day, we're going to go ahead and add in our fruits and vegetables. Now, full disclosure, what I added in here isn't a whole lot. I really was kind of targeting to make sure we hit this 2,000 calorie day by adding some of the vegetables that I eat on a regular basis, some of the fruit I eat on a regular basis. You can do a whole lot more diversity and get probably just as close to the nutritional goals. But let's see where we land now. So I added some cooked kale, breakfast, 150 grams. Once you cook kale, it shrinks down to less than nothing. So this is not a huge volume of food. I eat about 3 times this every morning, actually, in my with my steamed greens and my breakfast. And again, this is not a representation of what my day currently looks like. This is a sample day of what it could look like when sweet potatoes are the base of all of your meals in a day. At lunch, we added some mushrooms and onions cooked to make some kind of a meal out of this. At dinner, I say we take those walnuts and those lentils and we cook them in tomato sauce for a bit of a plant bolognese, and wilt in some Swiss chard, and you'll have a nice big hit of vegetable for dinner. We're going to supplement with our D and our B12 at this point, and for snacks, I like snacking on fruit, so bananas, apples, and some frozen blackberries if you want to mix those in with blend that into a smoothie. And this takes us into our full day of eating as a sample, and we've hit our calorie goal, we've hit our protein goal, we're a little short of our net carbs, we're a little short of our fat as well, and the reason we're a little short on some of those is because, especially the net carbs, because if you look at what we ate for today, our carbs were 350, but this is a high fiber diet, so we hit 85 grams of fiber, so you net down in the end to 257, because those fibrous calories are not metabolizable by the human body in traditional ways. You're not going to use it to build muscle, i.e. protein. It's not going to be used metabolically as fat or as a glucose store for glucose fuel for your muscles in the form of a carbohydrate. So it's actually going to be more of a food for your gut. So calorically, you actually don't metabolize fiber in the same way. So that's where you kind of get this carb versus net carb thing dropping out. You can see we've hit all our vitamins and minerals now that we've got our supplements in, and vitamin K and E. The E came from quite a bit of the Swiss chard, kind of closed that out a little bit for us, and the kale was a big hitter on that one. 961 on the calcium, so we're shy of the 1,000 that the USDA requires, but we're well over the 600 that the EU and the UK roll with. And the only other one we missed was sodium. And this sodium is actually getting hit from, they call the Swiss chard and the tomato sauce. I don't know why the USDA says because that's the database the Swiss chard is pulling from. I'm not sure why they have that sodium sitting there. And the tomato sauce, I mean, it's a canned tomato sauce that I pulled from the list, so it's going to show that the sodium's high on that, because most cans of tomato sauce off the shelf probably will be. And we get into fat, we almost hit our fat goal for the day, and we still have good representation from omega-3 and omega-6. We're still low fat on the day, low saturated fat on the day. And our protein at 75, we hit at 77, and like I said before, we hit all of our amino acids. So again, this is what 3 meals a day can look like with a little bit of supplementation and a few snacks when built around a third of your calories coming from sweet potatoes. It doesn't look like it takes a whole heck of a lot to actually close out all of your vitamins and minerals and your macronutrient needs, despite the fact that we kind of isolated our strongest carbohydrate source in the form of sweet potatoes, as opposed to other carbohydrate-rich foods like oats or wheat berries or rye berries or things like that. So yeah, I think I don't think there's any reason that someone can't base their diet around sweet potatoes if they grow them in the volume that I did. And again, my day isn't going to look a whole heck of a lot different than this, other than the fact that I'll probably have more diversity in my vegetables because I have a lot of stuff sitting in my freezer right now. But yeah, this is Cronometer, and this is what a sweet potato diet in a day can look like. So yeah, 3 meals, sweet potatoes are the base of all 3, and we hit all of our goals with just a little bit of supplementation. Not too challenging. I think it was kind of fun. Now, is this something I'm going to follow personally? Like I said, I have probably a bit more diversity in vegetables because I grow more diverse and I have things sitting around. And I'm never going to, unilaterally exclude whole grains from my diet. So it's going to look, I'll probably use sweet potatoes in each meal to some degree, but will they be the overall basis to every meal? Probably not. But I thought this was a fun exercise to put together and share with you. So I hope you were somewhat entertained by this, and if you were, please feel free to give the video a like, and if you have any questions, please feel free to post below. Happy to answer. And until next time, thanks for watching. Take care.